Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. Welcome to the episode called Never Forget. And obviously, we're never going to forget Sean Taylor. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Sean. I can't say how many great times and memories that we have of Sean. I mean, just like even there was like players that play nowadays that say that they, before they go into games, or was it Landon Collins who said he watches Sean Taylor highlights before he goes out and plays every game? Oh, man, what a time.
Ought to be young.
What a time to be alive.
Yes. So rest in peace, Sean. We miss you, brother. You're still the best safety ever. I don't care what anyone says.
Legendary.
Now, in other news that happened today, the Washington football team signed a wide receiver / punt kick returner, DeAndre Carter, who did a stint with the Chicago Bears, did a little time at Philly, but majority of his time was with Houston, appeared in 43 games. He's only 27 years old. He had 32 of those games with Houston, 4 with Chicago, and 7 with Philly. So I don't think that this means anything crazy. I don't know about you guys, but I just think this is another camp body, and this is another bad situation for Steven Sims. They brought in Adam Humphries for that slot position on offense, and now they've brought in DeAndre Carter to be a kick returner and punt returner there. So I don't know about Steven, bro.
Yeah, thank God. You know what I'm saying? But it's been no secret. They came out saying that they really, really want to improve their kick returner and punt returner. So, I mean, it makes sense. Bye, Steve.
Man, I had a really good joke, but I don't want to say it.
No, say it.
Nah,
don't hold back.
Nah, man.
If you're scared, say you're scared. It's cool.
You're scared.
I'm a little scared. No, I was gonna say, they just brought him in to get some intel off of Deshaun Watson. If you really like,
Yeah,
go down or not. So you like decide whether to trade for him or not.
They're like, DeAndre, have you ever been to a massage parlor with Deshaun? What is going on?
Oh man.
Nah, but seriously though, it's like the writing on the walls pretty much is for Steve Sims is out there. Like at the most, he might be a camp body and like make the practice squad. But even then, I was like, they already know his sin. They know what he can do. It's kind of like, your time's up, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. Steven Sims is like, he's probably a nice guy.
Now, the one thing with DeAndre Carter, he's 5'8", 190 pounds, smaller guy. He's going to do what you need to do. But in 43 games, 63 returns for 589 yards, but 9 fumbles. Now, I don't know if the fumbles are coming from his receiving when he's actually on offense, or if these are muff punts and stuff like that. So just taking into consideration, this is a guy who does put the ball on the turf a good amount for how much he gets it.
Yeah.
He
also ran a 4.44. So
he's a fast dude, man.
Good for him. Yeah.
I have no problem having him on like kick return and like maybe like the 5th or 6th receiver. Punt returns, that 9 fumbles things kind of like jumps out and scares you.
Punt returns,
you're more or less likely to get it on fumble the ball off kick return because everyone kicks it through the end zone nowadays anyway.
Right. And they're not getting hit as soon as they touch the ball.
Yeah.
But remember, they brought back Danny Johnson. He's a kick returner, and you talked about. You said he's not really a punt returner. Well, DeAndre Carter is, and if you're worried about that with punt returning, I mean, but regardless, him or Steven Sims. I mean, look, Steven, I don't have a problem with Steven. That dude caught a clutch touchdown against Tampa. It was awesome.
Right.
It's just, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here.
Yeah, you're
now,
nice.
Ron Rivera had a presser today and actually had some very fascinating quotes from it. Reed, what are some of those?
So, of course, we will start off with the quarterback position, the one position that everybody loves to talk about. Of course, we signed Ryan Fitzpatrick this offseason. When speaking with reporters today, Ron Rivera said that Fitzpatrick will come in as the number 1 quarterback, but there will be a competition. He also said that one of the mistakes I made last year is we didn't have a true competition. I want to play the guy who's going to give us the best opportunity. I think that's fantastic. Learn from his mistakes, just kind of being like, all right, Dwayne, you got the job. It's yours. Let's see what you have. And I hope that this is a good thing. We're going to let Heineke and Allen compete, but it's probably Fitz.
Thank you, Coach Rivera. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how many arguments I've got in on Twitter. I said it the day that they signed Taylor Heineke. Expect them to go after a veteran quarterback and to have competition going into training camp. That's what. Don't expect to trade up because it doesn't make any sense. And here's my rationale for that. They bowed out with Matt Stafford when it got more expensive than a first and a third, right? They then go and sign Taylor Heineke, and they tell him it's going to be a competition. If you're at this point, if you have to move from 19 up to get a quarterback, it's going to cost more than a first and a third. And they weren't willing to do that for Matt Stafford. So you think they're going to do that for somebody who's unproven? No. And that being said, Ron Rivera has always been talked about as a player's coach, not meaning that he's always siding with them, but he's a person that like talks to them. You know, he's not gonna lie to you just to get what he wants. He's actually going to be able to be truthful to you. And when he told Taylor Heineke it would be a competition, I don't think he was lying. And this is just evidence of it. Obviously, Fitzpatrick is going in as QB1, but Ron Rivera is doing it the right way by saying it's still an open competition somewhat. Obviously, still giving the chance for Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen to make a case for themselves. And that's the best case scenario, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and the NFL money talks, and they say what they pay you in the NFL is what they think about you. Clearly, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be making the most money as far as the quarterback room goes. So it makes sense. I can't even talk today. I don't know what's going on. So more than likely, it would make sense that he would come in as QB1. And like you said, Ron Rivera is going to learn from his mistakes from last year, not just hand the job to somebody. More than likely, everyone figures and knows it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick's week 1 starter, barring some like ridiculous injury. But at the end of the day, it would be a good problem to have if all of a sudden Taylor Heineke comes out and balls out and beats him in the competition. That just means that Taylor Heineke's stepped up a little bit more than people expected. And maybe we do actually have a guy for the next 2-3 years until we find that actual young rookie franchise 5-10 year guy.
Yeah.
And nobody is saying that Taylor's like going to come in and replicate what he did against Tampa. You know, nobody is saying that is going to happen. All we're saying is since that did happen, let's see what's going on. You might as well, and that's why they loaded up with Kyle Allen as well as going to get Ryan Fitzpatrick. Because, look, if Taylor Heineke does regress, okay, you still have Kyle Allen as the backup and Ryan Fitzpatrick starting for you, barring any quarterback that they draft possibly and coming up here in the draft. So I think it's a really good idea from Ron Rivera. They're making sure all their ducks are in a row. It's like a can't miss with the quarterback position. They're making sure that they have somebody at every level possible so they don't get in a situation like they were last year where they were starting guys that just weren't good at all, i.e. Mr. Seven.
Right. Yeah.
Now, do you have another quote for us, Mr. Reed?
Yeah. Just to go with the quarterback thing, about the draft and the quarterback of the future. Rivera says that they could be done adding to the quarterback room, but they will see. They don't know what will happen in front of them in the draft, but the team already has players that they like. And he also said it's not paramount that they get their quarterback of the future right now. He said in Carolina, he got Cam and then built around him. I've always thought if you could do it the other way, where you put all the other pieces around them and then go get your quarterback, that could be good. So like we've all been saying, you gotta build this roster up. This roster's close. This roster's very close. I think so. They don't have to force it. They don't have to stress it. They're just kind of going to let the draft fall to them. And I love that.
It's almost like he listens to our podcast. It's crazy.
Dude, how long have I been saying this, arguing with the people that were saying, trade up for Trey Lance,
I think it's like yesterday.
Yeah. Dude, oh my goodness. For so long, it's been, I'm like, dude, no, build your team. I don't want to trade away any future assets, any high value assets to move up in this draft. I know that there's plenty of quarterbacks, but the percentage chance of all of those quarterbacks doing well is very, very small. It is. I'm sorry. I would rather take a chance on a lesser quarterback, what everyone thinks, and not give away any assets than give away a bunch of assets for a guy that could possibly not turn out. I mean, look back at like drafts from 2 or 3 years ago. There's quarterbacks on there that don't even last 4 years on their team. Why would you trade away those assets? And I know that RG3 brings into it. I don't really think about it in that way. I just don't want to give up the future. You still build a team, build a foundation, and then let that quarterback fall to you. All right? And one other thing I'll say, with all these quarterbacks in this draft, a bunch of teams are going to get quarterbacks, right? Well, next season, there's not going to be that many quarterback-needy teams after drafting a quarterback in the first round this year. So next year's draft, you could be in a position in the mid-teens, but it's not going to be as crazy because they can fall because teams aren't going to need it, in my personal opinion.
My pinned tweet on Twitter is 2022 or 2021, Ryan Fitzpatrick does his thing, gets us to now there's 17 games, gets us to 8-8, 9-8, something like that. Maybe we bring him back for a second year as another 1-year contract as another bridge guy when we draft a quarterback, or everyone obviously already knows Russell Wilson's going to shake loose after this season from Seattle.
Aaron Rodgers has an out next year too.
Look, I don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, but more than likely, if he don't shake away this year, he'll shake away sometime next year if he's even playing in NFL. Who knows about that? But with that being said, like you just said, build the rest of the team around him, put the weapons on the outside, build the defense up to like an even better top 5 defense, fill all the holes that we had on defense last year. Next thing you know, this looks mighty attractive. This is one of those top tier quarterbacks that are going to hit free agency or want to get traded next year. I'm just saying, like, we could be in perfect position to not only get our guy. It might not be a younger guy like everyone wants, but I mean, who's going to be mad if they go after Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years, or maybe Deshaun Watson, who obviously still is young. So I think we're in perfect position if they don't draft a guy this year, or maybe they do draft a guy, take a flyer, and he pans out. Who knows?
Yeah, right. And you take the blueprint of what the Steelers did with Big Ben or what the Seahawks did with Russell Wilson, where they built a juggernaut and then put in a quarterback in place, a young quarterback, who then excelled with the pieces around him that helped him groom through that process of becoming an NFL quarterback and a superstar. Look at the Ravens with Joe Flacco. He didn't get his big contract until after they won the Super Bowl. Colin Kaepernick had a phenomenal defense, top 5 defense behind him when they went there. Look at Denver. What they did, obviously Peyton Manning was on last leg when they won that Super Bowl, but you build the team and then you get the quarterback. That is the best way to do it. How many teams do you see in the top 5, top 10 right now that always are there to draft a quarterback and they're still there?
Right. That happens. Yeah.
Look at the Falcons. They've been to one Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, and they drafted him number 1, number 2 overall.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, this is just what you build the team first, then get the quarterback. And I'm glad that Ron Rivera echoes that sentiment. Does he get any more quotes, Reed?
Yeah. Talking about free agency, there's a couple more here. Free agency is something that everybody's been talking about. And Rivera says that the team is going to continue to monitor who's out there in free agency for the second wave. They do know that they can still fill some positions through the draft. However, someone may hang around that they're interested in, and then they'll go. So I love this. This is another good thing, I think, where they're kind of waiting to see what the draft does before they go. I know everybody's been like, well, why aren't you signing a linebacker? KJ Wright's out there. Ron Rivera and them, they know what they're doing right now. They have an idea of how they want to build the team. And if they think that they can get somebody after the draft or fill the need in the draft, go for it. Signing it, filling the need in the draft will be a lot cheaper.
Yeah. And I saw on Twitter KB had posted it and said that, Ron Rivera had a comment about the going to get the slot wide receiver and getting the nickel corner in Darryl Roberts. And that KB was asking, does that mean that Jimmy Moreland's out of the slot? Like Jimmy Moreland has to be over Darryl Roberts. Yeah. And what I said to him is I think this is more along the line of Ron saying the depth at nickel corner. When you put the depth chart up on the board, with Fabian Moreau leaving, you don't have the depth there anymore. That you are confident in. I'll say that delicately. So I think going to get Darryl Roberts, who is a veteran corner that can step in that nickel, is what he's talking about. I don't think he means he's slotted in as a starter.
And in today's NFL, you need 4 good cornerbacks that can cover. You're rarely in just 2-3 cornerback formations anyway with how much offenses pass the ball. So, I mean, having somebody versatile like Darryl Roberts and Kendall Fuller, who both can play safety, they can play inside, they can play outside, I think that only helps. I mean –
yeah, no, I agree with you. Like I said, a lot of offenses are running those 3 wide receiver, 4 wide receiver sets nowadays, or 1 tight end split out in the slot, receivers on the outside.
And the tight ends are basically wide receivers now anyway.
Exactly. So you're going to need some speedy, athletic guys in the field to kind of match their speed and athleticism. So, like I said, it only makes sense to build the depth up. Everyone knows that people's corner is locked in as the day 1 starter more than likely. So don't got to worry about that.
Yeah. Another interesting thing, this will be the last one before we get into fan questions, but I like that he was talking about Sadiq Charles, and Rivera said that it's up in the air as to where Sadiq Charles will plays, but whether it be tackle or guard, we'll see where he fits best for us. So that's another thing. Everybody's been saying they're not going to take an offensive tackle early because they invested last year's 4th round pick in Sadiq, and they don't know what Sadiq is yet. They don't know what they have in him. So they are waiting to see kind of what happens, and Sadiq's going to play wherever he's best, wherever they see fit. And I love that. That could be a very good young left side of the line, let's say, if Sadiq ends up filling left guard, and then we draft an offensive tackle early.
Yeah, and a lot of the mock drafts that I've been doing, I've been having them pick a interior guard lineman like Miners, Quinn Miners.
I love Miners.
Yeah, me too. And then David Moore is another guy that could easily come in and do well at the guard position. But look, maybe they are confident in Sadiq Charles. I know the coach is saying a lot about the left tackle, but John Keim even tweeted that they are very interested in getting a starting left tackle, especially in this draft. And so I think that says a lot about what they think is going on with Sadiq Charles. And obviously he got injured after 2 snaps, so he has to prove himself as well. And so slotting him in at guard, I think, is the best bet.
I'll tell you where he doesn't have to prove himself, though, on Instagram. He's got my favorite Instagram.
Yeah, he does. You always
Yeah,
talk about that guy's Instagram, dude.
Yeah, I mean, his Instagram's pretty lit.
The dude's fire, you know.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I think that the lineman is definitely going to be a priority. I think that they're going to try to get younger at the position. And like I said, I guess Ron Rivera came in and said it. We need to look at the past, study the past, and repeat that past.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about the past, we've had Chris Samuels and then Trent Williams in transition over. So
Right.
it only makes sense for them to draft a young left tackle and be that cornerstone of the line for the
Right.
next 10 plus years.
This is a franchise that prides itself in offensive lines. I mean, their biggest group of all time is the Hogs. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I'm sorry. One last thing. I completely forgot about this quote. This is an awesome one about William Jackson III. Rivera says that William Jackson allows them to play more man coverage. It gives them an opportunity to be diverse. He also notes that Jack Del Rio has worked with a lot of corners who were primarily man corners elsewhere, and that Jackson isn't the first. He also said that signing of Jackson, it's going to add to the things we're currently doing. This is a dynamic football player. We're very happy to have him. So everybody who was freaking out about how does William Jackson fit in this? He's a man corner. Jack Del Rio knows what he's doing. Ron Rivera knows what they're doing. They know what they see. Everybody needs to relax. William Jackson's a fantastic football player, and I think he's going to end up being the number one corner on this team.
Yeah, and another quote that he had said is William Jackson offers the ability to kind of take away one side of the field
Right.
in that aspect, and that's something that Washington hasn't had since
Right.
Daryl Green, really, and Champ
Yeah.
Bailey.
Champ Bailey, yeah.
We had Josh Norman. What do you mean?
But that actually follows the number one wide receiver, And so what he said is it allows the defense and Jack Del Rio to be able to do a lot more things defensively and being able to be unique with blitzes and coverages and stuff like that. So it makes a lot of sense that they would go down that route. Now let's get on. Sorry, Reed. Hall.
No, I was just gonna say it was like everyone knows it was primarily like a big cover three, a lot of cover three last year. So with this dominant defensive line coming, Matt Ioannidis coming back, if they can fill these linebacker holes, get some speedy guys that can maybe blitz, it just bodes well for a guy like William Jackson who can play a man coverage and pretty much take away, like you said, half the field and make the quarterback only read one side of the field. So I love it.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Now let's move on to our fan questions. And the first one we're going to start out with is our fourth honorary member, Todd. Our good friend Todd. He wants to know, Hall, how would you handle the 2012 draft if it was like a redraft? Would you still trade up to 2 and give up number 6? And would it still be Robert at the number 2 overall selection?
Yeah. So if we're gonna redo the whole redraft 2012, yes. Obviously, everything is hindsight, but yes, I would trade up. I would give up everything, even if it was for Robert Griffin, just because that rookie season was so explosive. Obviously, the injuries is what derailed him and him wanting to be like a pocket passer. But I think that if he would have like never really got injured like that, I think that we maybe would like came in a little bit more humble in his second season and maybe been more acceptive to like staying like outside the pocket and then eventually working his way into the pocket and staying there. But with that being said, I definitely think that you're not going to get Robert Griffin. You probably go for a guy like Russell Wilson, who's been a staple in his league since 2012 when he came in. He's been a starter since day one. So, yeah, if you're going to give up all the assets to jump to number 2, I would definitely pick Russell Wilson. But, again, no one knew he would turn out to that. So maybe you sit pat at 6 and he falls to you at 6 and you draft him at 6.
If this is a redraft and you kind of have hindsight on how careers are going to turn out. Russell Wilson, I think, obviously goes 1. So then I would still make that trade for Andrew Luck. Get a good few years out of Andrew Luck. The dude's fantastic. Who knows? Maybe he still loves football. Maybe injuries don't derail that career.
He grew up a Washington fan.
Yeah,
he was born in the area.
Right. And who knows? If you stay at 6A, there's a chance you can get Ryan Tannehill. Now, are you going to get Miami's Ryan Tannehill or are you going to get the Tennessee Ryan Tannehill? That begs to be seen, But I would still trade up to number 2. I think a franchise quarterback is just so important in that situation.
Luke Kuechly was there as well. And this linebacking class, Levante David, Bobby Wagner was there. Tahir Whitehead is there as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lots of talent in that draft. And so would I have still traded up? Yes. And like Hall said, I would have traded up for Russell Wilson, if anything. But obviously we didn't know that. So if we're staying at 6, I think Reed is right. You take Tannehill there at 6. You then get Levante David in the 2nd if he's still there. You know what I'm saying? One of those guys.
Think about Seattle's draft in 2012. Yeah. Look at that. Like Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson. Did they get Richard Sherman that year or was it 2011?
I think he was 2011.
But either way, I mean, just they've got a few other guys. I remember looking at that draft like a couple years ago and just being like, God damn.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how like we're like, oh yeah, just stand pat at 6 and take Ryan Tannehill because that's literally what Mike Shanahan wanted to do.
That's
he didn't want to trade up. He wanted to sit there and take Tannehill. So Hey, everyone would have worked out for everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe
That being
he's still have a
said,
job here.
great segue. That being said, Brad Orme wants to know, in regards to Snyder's buying out of the minority owners, he wants to know how many more years before we get another shot at getting rid of this guy. Can Snyder redeem himself if this front office and coaching staff can actually make a yearly contender out of this team, or has he lost the goodwill forever, Reed?
I mean, it just really depends on how long until he slips up. One of these times, I think something's going to come out when people get too frustrated and they meet to him, and something's going to come out. But it almost makes you feel like it's kind of invincible if all this stuff came out this past summer, and all of a sudden the guy gets more ownership of the team. You know, it kind of dampens your hopes on that. I don't know if he's ever going to sell it. You know, I don't know. I know he doesn't want to.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll ever sell it, to be honest. And I'm not going to be in that business of trying to get rid of somebody. Like, 'cause I've said on Twitter before, just because you drive your car terribly doesn't mean that you should be forced to sell your car. You can have your license revoked, but that doesn't mean you should sell your property. And
Right.
I'm not in the business of being able to do that. Now, if you do stuff like in a criminal way, then obviously, yes, there's measures that need to be taken. But that's not what happened here with the Snyder case. All the damning stuff against Snyder was hearsay, stuff that could not be proven, nothing that was recorded or anything, even the tape that was made of the cheerleaders. There's no evidence supporting that Dan Snyder ordered that to happen. All it is hearsay. That has no validation, unfortunately. In a logical sense, in the court of law, it doesn't. All it is hearsay. So at that point, all he's guilty of is running his organization terribly. Does that mean that he should sell it? No, it means he needs to get his crap together, and he's done that for the past year. Now, I will say, how long will it take until we get rid of him? As long as he continues to do what he's doing, it's fine. Stay out of the camera, stay out of the talk, stay out of the building, stop trying to push Haskins down our throat. Nobody wants that. Stay back, let Ron Rivera and company run the ship here. They've obviously done a very good job in a short amount of time, a lot better than you did for 20 years. So I think as soon as Snyder starts to reap his head around again, we're going to notice it. And there's going to be I don't think that his leash is as long as it was before with the NFL. I'll say that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually said on Twitter whenever the whole he was gonna get the whole ownership thing came out, I was like, yeah, he's been bad as an owner for the past 20 years, but if anybody's noticed this past year with the hire of Ron Rivera, Jason Wright, putting Julia in the VP of the media, he's trying to I'm not gonna say right his wrongs, but he's trying to kind of change his ways, and obviously he stayed out of the football things, the football side of things this year. He let Ron Rivera and the football guys do football things. So and we produce on the field. Things are starting to change around. The perception of the Washington football team, formerly Washington Redskins, is changing in the national media and locally. So obviously, someone pointed out on Twitter also, all it's going to take is maybe 2 subpar seasons for him to be kind of creep his way back in. But guess what? I feel like he's scared shitless of Ron Rivera, so he's gonna let Ron Rivera do his thing.
So do I. I feel like there's definitely a power dynamic there where he's just like, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And Ron's like, okay, cool.
Now, can he redeem himself? I definitely do. I think that if he stays continuing what he's doing and they win a Super Bowl, I think that he will.
I will go kiss his feet and suck on his toes if that happens.
And that is
I'm not kidding.
That is something
Billy
Ron Rivera
style.
did say, that the owner has been open with him. And they've told what his plans are for Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera's plan is for the offseason. Dan said, go ahead and do it. Do it. Go. You got it.
Yep,
and so
I was just going to say.
Yeah. So it's really good to hear Ron say that. Obviously, he could be blowing smoke, but I trust Ron. I don't think Ron's going to go up there and try to lie to people just to do it.
Ron, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Ron's the man.
Yes, he is. Now, the next question is from the Colonel, and this is a draft question.
Oh, always a good one.
It's a great question. If Patrick Surtain II falls to 19, does Washington football take him no matter what? Reed.
I really, really like Patrick Surtain. I think that he is a very good cornerback. And I know today cornerback's kind of one of the elite position, one of the most important positions on the field. But I just think with the signing of William Jackson and then going out and getting Darrell Roberts, I mean, maybe it could allow you to put somebody like Kendall Fuller at free safety a majority of the time. But Fuller, as we've seen, hasn't really shined at free safety over his career. So I don't think so. I think that you still, at this point, you got to take the best offensive tackle or linebacker, unless one of the big wide receivers falls. So I don't think it's a sure thing. I think maybe you could get a team that wants it, that you could trade out of that spot with for sure. But I don't think that guarantees you take Patrick Surtain.
I don't think it guarantees it, Colonel. But I will say if that kind of talent is there, because everyone likes to say a first round grade. Well, a lot of these scouting departments, they have the blue chips. And every year there's maybe 10 to 15 blue chips on a good year.
On
a good year. If that blue chip falls, you take it 150%. You could go back and look at the 2014 draft and see somebody sitting there at 20 that got drafted that should have been drafted in the top 10. It happens all the time. So definitely you go down that route. The corner is not 100% solved, and having two fantastic corners in your defense immediately upgrades the rest of this team. So if Patrick Surtain, a player like that, if they really do believe he's a blue chipper, yes, you take him no matter what, regardless.
To say that, do you think he's a blue chipper? I think he's the second best corner. I like J.C. Horn better, me personally. But I know every other scouting report I've seen or big board I've seen has Patrick Surtain number one, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I personally, I haven't watched much film on him, but yes, I believe
J.C.
Horn is a lockdown corner. I think that he's legit. Same with Caleb Farley. To be perfectly honest. And I saw on Twitter, Patrick Surtain's dad went back at, was it Dan Orlovsky? He said somebody had posted that Patrick Surtain held a lot at Alabama, like held all the time. And Patrick Surtain's dad told him to check the tape and see how many flags were thrown. It was great. Defending his kid. I thought it was fantastic.
It's a great comeback.
Yeah, it is. Now, Orange Crush wants to know, if you're drafting for an offensive tackle or guard, what would be your number one go-to stat for picking either one for the Washington football team, Hall?
I like arm length, obviously, because you got to keep arm's length away from the defensive end. I like the 3-cone times, because I can kind of show like explosiveness, your agility from side to side, so like your drop steps and kick steps, stuff like that. And also a big one for me is your bench press. How many times you rep the 225, just because obviously you're going against another grown ass man on the other side of you, and you're going to need that strength and that leverage to keep the defensive end on the edge and not be able to rush the passer. So those would be kind of like my top three things.
For me personally, Orange Crush, it's two things. It's hands and it's athleticism. And like, remember that Trent Williams one block that he had where somebody hit like a spin on him and he even hit a spin and came back around and blocked him? That's the type of play you need out of your left tackle at this level. Now, obviously, Cornelius Lucas did a fantastic job last year. But when you're looking for that left tackle, I need somebody that can be used in multiple ways, that can be used in screens and stuff like that. And then hands. Hand fighting is so big in the NFL. In college, you can get away with it with pure strength and speed and stuff like that. In the NFL, you're going to have to be able to establish control and getting the hands on their chest plate and being able to push guys out of the way. And so hands is huge for me as well. You got to be able to have control over the guy you're blocking. And if you lose that, I can't do much with you, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you guys touched on them. I was for sure going to say hand size. I think that's just so important. Not only that, but the way that they use their hands.
Right. That's what I more meant.
Right. Well, I think hand size is important too, though, because when you're grabbing a hold of that jersey, you can't have these little meatloaf or Whopper Jr. hands.
Whopper Jr.
But also players' balance and their nastiness. I think that you want your offensive linemen to just be down and dirty, and they got to have a good, nice, sound base. They got to be able to get their pads low. Pad level is as important as it is for an offensive lineman. That can end up being taught. So that's something that, yes, of course, you would like your player to have very good balance and very good pad level. But that can also be, if they don't, that can be taught in the NFL by your offensive line coach, especially us with Matsko. I mean, it's just one of the best in the NFL. So you guys basically touched on everything, but I'll also throw balance on there.
Yeah.
Pad level.
Now let's stick with the draft. And Tay and Todd from the podcast, great podcast. If you guys haven't checked it out already, go make sure you check it out. He said the best case scenario for the first round pick. This can include moving up, moving back, or staying put. It has to be a specific player and be realistic, Reed.
So obviously, I mean, I guess we're all kind of picking different scenarios here. So I'm going to go with, and I don't think that so it's got to be realistic. Okay, so that eliminates Penei Sewell falling, but I'm going to go with Micah Parsons falling down there. Obviously, I would personally like to trade back if one of the quarterbacks, if somebody fell, or
just
whoever falls. I'm gonna go with Micah Parsons falling down to number 19. I think that he fills just such a fantastic need. He's just the best linebacker in the draft, and it is realistic. I mean, I know nobody really thought this beforehand, but with all his character concerns, it could happen. Happens every year. Jonathan Allen fell down to 17. I mean, Reuben Foster fell almost out of the first round. These things happen.
It's far-fetched, but it's realistic.
Yeah, right. But it could possibly happen, man. It happens every year. So I'm going to go with Micah Parsons. I just think he fills such a fantastic need for us, and it's something that I could actually see maybe happening.
Yeah, for me, the best case scenario is trading back, possibly to 25 with Jacksonville. I've said it many times with maybe they need a left tackle for oh my goodness. Trevor Lawrence. I don't know why I blew that bug. But for a team like that makes sense. And so moving back to 25 and then selecting a guy like Zaven Collins, one of the things that Ron Rivera talked about is like getting a leader for that middle linebacking core, and somebody like Zaven Collins really does fit the bill. I know everyone keeps talking about Nick Bolton and stuff. Nick Bolton more fits as a 3-4 linebacker, and I really do believe that he's the guy that's going to be drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pair him up next to Devin Bush. You know, they always get linebackers done right, and I think that's where he fits best. But for me, I think Zaven Collins' length, his body size, it mirrors what Sweat and Young have. And I just feel like he would fit perfectly for this kind of defense. Obviously, he's not going to be right away your Mike linebacker, but I think he can do that in some packages. Most likely, he's going to be playing on the outside more as a coverage guy, and he can blitz really well. So for me, it's trading back and then drafting Zaven Collins. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, for me, it would be to just stand pat at 19 and have a guy like Christian Darrisaw drop down to you at 19. Obviously, like I said,
I love Darrisaw.
From Chris Samuels to Trent Williams to Darrisaw would be a huge upgrade to this line. You can kick Sadiq Charles inside, have him play in the left guard. And then you have
Lucas is a swing tackle.
Exactly, swing tackle of Lucas. And you have Darrisaw. Who did I just say? Oh, Darrisaw, Sadiq in the left guard, Rouillet, Sheriff, Moses. You're fortified in the line going forward, obviously barring any type of injuries. And you got more depth because you got Lucas as a swing tackle. You still have Schweitzer. He can fill in that guard. So, I would definitely – that would be my best case scenario at 19.
Yeah, and that's a great question from Tay and Todd.
Yeah.
Wizkins, before our guest arrives, Wizkins wants to know, if there was 5 major changes in a redraft from last year, what would they be? My first one's going to be Justin Jefferson going top 10. He went 22nd to the Vikings. He showed out this year and showed that he should have been a top 10 pick, like I said, all pre-draft. I said it many, many times. So I think Justin Jefferson in the top 10 for one.
I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins with their first round selection. Obviously, we still don't know what 2 is going to be, but obviously Justin Herbert was just unreal. There's a chance Justin Herbert goes 1 in this redraft, even though I think Joe Burrow still has a higher upside. He's still going to end up being better. But I'm going to go with Justin Herbert going to the Dolphins.
Yeah. The Lions picked number 3. They took Jeff Okudah. Obviously, the Lions just as a whole were just bad last year. I know he had some injuries off on the field, so he missed some time like that. But I don't really think he didn't live up to the 3rd pick overall.
He didn't look
and
like
I don't think that he will going forward. Like, he's going to be a solid corner, don't get me wrong. But number 3 overall didn't really live up to the hype. I don't think he will. So I definitely think that the Lions will go a different direction at number 3.
Yeah, and then the other ones that I have for you, the Giants taking Tristan Wirfs over Andrew Thomas, Isaiah Simmons falling out of the top 10. Isaiah Simmons, sorry. And then Cameron Curl being drafted over Antoine Winfield. I think that would be 100% fact that would happen.
Another big one that wouldn't happen would be the Titans taking Isaiah Wilson. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they got not even a season out of him.
Yeah, dude. What a
crazy guy.
Already gotten cut by Miami.
Yeah. Now Rio wants to know, way too early, bold predictions for next season, Hall.
Sheesh.
Player or team?
Bold prediction: Terry McLaurin will be in the top 5 as far as receiving yards next year.
There you go.
Logan Thomas will have over 750 yards receiving next year.
Okay, there you go. I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson having over 1,200 yards rushing next year. Just putting it together. Ooh. That would help out. That would be awesome. Ooh.
That would be so nasty, dude.
I might freaking lose my mind if my man Gibby goes for 1,200 next year.
Dude,
yeah, I would cry.
You know what that would mean? That would mean you're dominating through the ground, and the defense. Oh my goodness! Wow.
Could you imagine what Terry and Curtis Samuel would do in that situation?
That's what I say. That means my prediction would come true because Terry would be top 5 with all that play action downfield stuff off the run.
Both your guys' predictions would come true.
Yeah,
let's just pray all 3 of them do.
I went back and watched Curtis Samuel's catches from last season. And dude, is he freaking impressive.
He's so good on the deep. Last year, what was he? He was the number 1 rated wide receiver in terms of deep balls.
99.9%.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's not even just deep balls, dude.
No, I know, but I'm saying that was something that he struggled with for the first 3 years of his career.
Like all contested catches. It didn't matter where it was. There was always somebody on him, and he was coming down with the ball.
He's so versatile, going up, lining up in the slot, in the backfield, out wide. Like
it was such a steal to get him. Now, our next question is from Mike. He said, will the 11-6 record that the Washington football team is going to go next season, will that be enough to win the NFC East, Hall?
I'll probably say yeah, just because historically to win the NFC East, you only need about 9 or 10 wins anyway. So, yeah, I mean, look, if they can get to 11 wins next year, I would be a very, very, very happy fan.
Right. Now, look, will 11-6? Yes, without a doubt, that will win the division. I don't think there's anybody else in this division that can win that many games, especially with the wear and tear of the season. These other teams are, especially the Eagles and Cowboys, they're thin in some areas. You know what I mean? So a lot of things can happen. That being said, yes, 11 wins would win them the NFC East. Now, do I think the 11 wins is going to 100% happen? I don't know. But I've always said my one goal for next season is for them to win the NFC East. That is the bar that's being set. Anything underneath is a failure to me.
Yeah, 11 wins would 100% win them this division. The one thing, their schedule is just so difficult right now that I don't know if 11 wins will happen. And then Dallas having an easier schedule and then having Dak come back, that could help maybe benefit them. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think it's going to be between us and the Giants. And I think if they get 11 wins, Washington gets 11 wins. Oh, yeah, watch out.
Oh, yeah. Now, David Black wants to know, Kelvin Harmon going to be a tight end before the season is out?
No,
I don't think so. I wouldn't. I think that's very disrespectful to Kelvin, especially coming off of the injury that he had. You know, he was expected to do a lot last season, and he came in, got injured, and look, it sucks. But I don't think that means he's going to get pushed into tight end. I think the guy still has a shot.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like we were talking about before, a lot of wide receivers that are like outside guys, they don't want to go inside and bump down inside and like go against defensive ends every single snap. And yeah, they don't want none of that. None of those problems. I
will say Kelvin Harmon is a very physical wide receiver.
Yeah, he's a very good blocker.
But I just don't. I can't see him moving to tight end. No, that's something that happens when your career's on the line and you're a wide receiver and you're like 6'5", you know, and it's like.
And you're on your last
Ricky Seals Jones and Dan Arnold.
Niles Paul was a completely different situation, man.
Yeah, he was already like just known for his run blocking and stuff as a wide receiver, and he was already gaining weight, getting bigger.
Yeah, because he was already you're right. He was already heavy set, and they were like, all right, instead of losing weight, why don't you put on more? And remember, he was used as an H back, out of the backfield receiving, almost like a Mike Sellers in a way that they used him.
Yeah,
man,
for sure.
Those were the days, the Shanny days, man.
The cave.
That was interesting, man. Daryl Young also transitioning over from linebacker to fullback. He ended up being a stud.
All right.
One of the best fullbacks in the league.
We are currently going to be joined by our guest, and we are joined tonight by Chris Russell of 980 The Rooster. How are you doing tonight, Chris?
Nope, didn't hear us.
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
Hey guys, sorry about that. I had to get my audio up. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are big fans of you.
Problem.
Going back to 106. Very, very busy man. Just got off the radio.
I know.
Yeah. Well, that's why I had the audio down, because Pete Medhurst and I were yapping about COVID and on the Nationals and of course all the stuff with the Washington football team and what Ron had to say this morning and the draft. So I got to keep my audio down because then I get too many things going, and then that's not good for the radio. So I apologize about that.
Not with people listening live. No way.
No,
exactly.
And that being said, you just brought it up, Russell, so I have to ask you, what was your opinion of Ron's presser today? Did you get any little tidbits out of it that you found a little fascinating?
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I touched on this on my radio show. So, and I wrote about it at SI. I was surprised. I don't know about you guys, that he was so transparent, and that's Ron's nature, to be more transparent than most NFL coaches because he's just a good dude. Right. But I was surprised that he's been preaching competition. And he said his greatest regret was not having a true competition last year with Wayne Haskins and Kyle Allen. And again, Ryan Fitzpatrick has said all the right things. He had not in any way, shape, or form that I heard in all the multiple interviews he's done, said, hey, I was brought here to be the starter. I signed here because they promised me I was going to be the starter or anything. He just said I was promised a chance. I was promised a competition. So when Ron comes out to Scott Abraham from ABC7, first answer, bing, bang, boom, says, hey, most fans want to kind of know where we're at. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick the number one guy? And Ron says, he's the starter. He's the number one guy. But we're going to have a true competition. Well, I would just ask, and I'm not trying to be critical of Ron. I'm just, me. How do you have a true competition if you've already anointed the guy that everyone knew was going to be number one, if you've already publicly anointed him as number one?
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, we were talking about this earlier where I feel like in the NFL is based off how much they pay you is what they think of you. So with him making the most money in the quarterback room, it only makes sense for him to be QB1 going into the season.
Right. So, but they were trying to hide that up until today. And that's why I'm surprised that it came, I think we all knew, right? I mean, nobody's surprised by this, or nobody should be surprised by this. And maybe it turns out to be different, and Heineke or Kyle Allen, just has a meteoric jump and Fitzpatrick looks confused and, or maybe he gets injured or whatever. And maybe he won't be under center for week one. But I mean, guys, I don't know. Before today, there was, I thought like a 98% chance he would be the week one starter, provided that everything was okay health-wise. And now, I mean, how can you walk away with anything other than, again, 100%, unless there's an injury or unless he's so bad, which I just can't imagine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, now speaking of Fitz, what was your feeling on signing Fitzpatrick based off of pretty much who was left on the market? And did you want them to get a bridge kind of veteran guy, or did you want them to be more aggressive and kind of jump up in the draft and get a younger guy?
Well, I did not want that. That option was no thanks.
I agree because
with that. I'm of the belief that, just because you think a guy is your guy, what happens if you're not good at determining whether that guy is your guy and is going to be the guy? So you hear that a lot, right, from NFL analysts and scouts and whatever. Is if you truly believe in that, what happens if you're not good at evaluating that? And a lot of people, quite honestly, aren't good. Or what happens if you have every good intention, right, and you pick the right guy, work ethic, arm, mobility, whatever, and he gets injured, Robert Griffin style, or many other quarterbacks, right? And there were other problems, obviously, with Robert. I think we all know that. Yeah. But I'm just saying, what happens if the best laid plans go awry? So I didn't want the unproven and the trade up. As far as Fitzpatrick goes, listen, I know it's not as sexy of a choice as Matthew Stafford, but they tried hard to go after Matthew Stafford, right? Yeah. We've all heard, a first and a third. I was told by one source that they offered 2 firsts. Wow. I don't know if that was a 2021 first, which clearly it was, and maybe like a 2024 first. I don't know that, but I was told by one source 2 firsts. Wow. So they went hard after Stafford, but Stafford didn't want to be here, and they didn't have the collateral damage to give to Detroit, in turn. So I wanted nothing to do with Deshaun Watson even before massage therapy Arama. I wanted, Russell Wilson, when Russell Wilson comes out through his agent and says, oh yeah, I'm not asking for a trade, but if I were to, and if I were to get traded, I want to go here, and there. Right. And I basically gave him the double middle finger salute, because if you don't want to come play for me, I don't want you to come play for me. Right. And I certainly am not going to go try and trade. So I looked around and I said, well, okay, to me, it was either between Fitzpatrick or Mitchell Trubisky, right? I wasn't Tyrod Taylor, all this. No, thanks. So to me, I always preferred Fitzpatrick. I honestly thought they would go Trubisky because younger, more mobile, maybe more upside. He had a pretty decent end to his tenure in Chicago. Ron really liked him coming out of Carolina, North Carolina, meaning Ron really, really liked him. Now, I mean, listen, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not happy or that Fitzpatrick is here, but I wanted Fitzpatrick. I thought they were going to go Trubisky.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously Fitzpatrick was a huge signing for Washington. A lot of people are still upset that Washington hasn't signed like a linebacker, for example. Ron Rivera did bring up the second wave of free agency, saying that they're going to kind of take a wait and see approach or see what happens in the draft, see how things fall. Is there any linebackers out there, either in the draft or free agency, that you kind of have your eyes on?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. We were talking about this today on the radio, and we've touched on it before. And I asked actually Ron at the end of the press conference about the linebacker situation. And he made one thing clear. He's like, look, we have to replace Kevin Pierre-Louis, right? Yeah. They don't have to replace John Bostic right now. Right. He's got 1 year left. I think John Bostic is better than most people, kind of walk away feeling he is. But if you ask John Bostic to play 1,000 snaps and to stop the run and to tag tight ends and speedy backs out of the back, you're asking too much. He's John Bostic. He's not Luke Kuechly. I mean, I'm sorry. So I think weak side linebacker is a number one priority. I think the good news is at number 19, there's 4 guys at least that I could think of. The kid from Kentucky, obviously the kid from Notre Dame, Owusu Koromoa. Am I saying that right? I don't even know if I am. Zayvon Collins from Tulsa. And who am I forgetting about? The
Nick Bolton or Micah Parsons may fall.
Micah Parsons. And Bolton you could throw into the mix as well. I mean, I don't know as much yet about him, but I mean, if Micah Parsons is there at
that's
19,
no question.
I mean, like run the card up, right?
Run up naked.
That's what,
exactly. And I know there's some character concerns and whatever, and maybe he hazed a kid.
Who cares? Let him run the card up naked.
Yeah, from what I understand, there's some questions about, maybe his maturity, and I want to be careful to say that stuff doesn't matter. It does matter to me, right? There were people that had these questions about Dwayne and had these questions about Robert, and I feel like I'm picking on Robert, but I mean, there were people that had these questions, and everybody goes, "Oh, you're just being negative." No, these are legitimate questions, but me personally, I'm not talking about Micah Parsons having a rap sheet. I'm not hearing, and I haven't done as much research yet, guys. So I'm just being honest. I'm not hearing the crap that I was hearing about Darius Geis, right? About Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
So to me, I'm running that envelope right up, or whatever we're doing, zooming it, or whatever the hell we're doing. We're running it to the podium, and Dopey Roger Goodell with Micah Parsons on it if he's there.
Now, based on Chris of Ron Rivera's presser today, and possibly your people that you talk to around the team and everything, what do you think is the most likely position that they go with in that first round? And if there's a prospect you really do have in mind, I know Darrisaw has been brought up a lot. Martin Mayhew was at his pro day the other day. He's from the area, grew up miles away from FedEx Field. What would you say right now with the position they're going to take in that first round?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would lean more towards, that weak side linebacker spot, because I think left tackle, even though I totally get it and I understand why you would want to, improve it, lock it down. First of all, I'm not sure if Darrisaw is going to last. That's number one. Yeah. Number two, and I would only go left tackle if Darrisaw or if the kid from Northwestern, Rashawn Slater, or somehow, I mean, Penny, it's not going to be there, right? But I'm not going Sam Cosme. I'm not going, anybody that might project to a right tackle. Remember, Brandon Sheriff played left tackle at Iowa in college, right, guys? Everyone knew he wasn't going to be a left tackle, but they thought he was going to be a right tackle, and he didn't even work out in that regard. And we could debate Brandon Sheriff forever and a day. You guys might know that I'm a little critical of him. But the point of the matter is, I'm not taking anybody that they don't think is a blue chip, premier, absolute stone cold assassin at left tackle. I'm not doing it at 19. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to trade down, and I might trade down anyway, because like I mentioned, I'm going weak side linebacker first, and maybe somebody with the ability to move eventually inside. And I think that, I think that could be a Zayvon Collins, somebody like that. I'm going weak side first, with the thought of maybe this guy, when he learns the defense, might eventually be my Mike, or he could just be a really good athlete at the weak side spot at the will. So that's where I'm kind of looking at. I would be disappointed if it's wide receiver, if it's quarterback. I mean, unless, if Trey Lance is there, I guess I'd have to just give in to that. I guess
I'll accept it.
I don't love that idea, to be honest with you, because I think he's really raw, but
Right.
I mean, I would understand that. I don't want wide receiver, don't give me, even if Kadarius Toney is there, even if Rashad Bateman is there, and somebody's going to be there, right? I mean, I don't know. Like I've done enough at wide receiver, right? They even brought in another kid today, right? I mean, so to me, I know you don't draft purely for need, but I'm really looking at need and what also could make this defense dynamic. Because right now, I think it's a good to very good defense. Hopefully with William Jackson III, it takes a step up. We know they still really don't have a true free safety, but I need this defense, quite honestly, guys. If I'm going to win a championship, if I'm going to win a division, if I'm going to make the playoffs against this brutal gauntlet of a schedule, I need this defense to be great. Not good to very good. I need it to be great. I need it to be elite. So to me, a weak side linebacker is really kind of the priority here. And they didn't address it in free agency, I think, because they think, oh man, look at this crop, look at this class, and look where we can go. And we might even be able to get our guy or a guy that we like by moving slightly down.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
That's why we love you. That's why we love you, Rooster.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, and you touched on the season next year. What's your thoughts on the 17 game season going into the next year?
Hate it. Been screaming about it, and I'm sure my partner Pete is aggravated about hearing me. I even asked Ron Rivera about it today. I was certainly nice. I didn't offer my opinion to the old head ball coach, but I hate it. First from a league-wide perspective, right? More football, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong. More football does not equal good football, right? We know injuries are a huge problem all across the NFL, especially in week 16, 17, what have you. We don't know when the 17th game or opponent is going to be played, but I'm just looking at the end of the season. Now we're extending the end of the season, right? We know that putting in an extra regular season game and taking away a fourth preseason game is inconsequential, right? It's not the same. They're not 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So it's not an even trade-off. On top of that, what I worry about is not only the amount of guys on IR and therefore players that are really fringe roster players that are now being asked to play significant roles, but on top of that, what you have is the guys remember guys last week 17 when Alex basically go in there limping, Terry McLaurin's on a terrible bad ankle, Kevin Pierre-Louis ultimately didn't play, but a couple of other guys are banged up, right? And they go out and they gut it out and they play and they win. And, they perform reasonably well and they win a division title. That's great. But you know what? That doesn't always happen that way. So it's not only guys that finish up on IR and the amount of IRs, it's guys that are banged up and guys that can barely move and guys that can't normally play the way they're. What happens if William Jackson III twists an ankle in the 16th game of the season, and normally you might have a little extra time or whatever, and then you trot him out there week 17 in a must-win game, right? It's an extra game, and then he gets beat for 3 touchdowns. Then all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh, you suck, we wasted all this money, whatever. And I know I'm coming up with hypotheticals, but guys know what I'm talking about, right?
It's got to happen.
Yeah. So then on top of that, just let me throw this at you. If I tell you week 17 or the 17th game is for a team that's already playing a first place schedule, hosting Kansas City, hosting Tampa, going to Green Bay, going to Denver, and I know they weren't a first place team, going to the Raiders, a couple of long road trips, the NFC East opponents. If I tell you, oh, by the way, you got to go to Buffalo in mid-December. I went to school at Buffalo State College, guys. I'm telling you, mid-December ain't no trip.
That's fun.
And it's really after October 15th, you could be in a world of hurt up there. I've been to plenty of games at whatever they're calling it now, and drank a lot of beer there. Okay. And never played football, but it was uncomfortable even with a lot of beer in me. So I'm telling you, and oh, by the way, the opponent is really good. And they might arguably be the second best team in the AFC, right? I mean, they are, so again, I know I'm rambling, sorry. 17 games, bad for the league, bad for football, bad for players. I admire the Chicago Bears owner who had the guts to say, you know what, listen, we got to do this better. We don't need an extra hundreds of millions of dollars. It's bad for the game. That guy had the guts, McCaskey or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
That guy had onions and looked down the gun barrel and said, you know, the hell with you guys. And it didn't matter. It didn't count, right? And he lost. But the fact that he was willing to do that, I appreciate that from him, because it's bad for everyone. It's not bad for the TV networks. It's not bad for the owners in terms of money. It's bad for the quality of the game, the health of the players. And I truly believe it's also bad for us as football fans, because we're watching watered down product. We're watching more, but we're watching a watered down project. Just because you go to a buffet doesn't mean 45 things are going to taste really good on the buffet. One or two things might taste good. 40 other things might taste meh, you know?
Yeah, right.
And
That's usually how it.
And the one thing I'll say, with adding that extra game, they should eliminate 2 of those preseason games and add a bye week there. If they're going to add that extra game, you should be able to have the 2 bye weeks in the season to help the players be able to be more healthy once that 17th game comes around.
I mean, theoretically, yes, absolutely. And I could see that second bye week coming with an expansion to 18 games much further down the road. I don't think it's coming anytime soon, because they're going to look at it as too hard to, you know, kind of schedule everything, especially with the 17th game and the format and all that stuff. You know, I think the NFL looks at it this way, guys. International games, much higher of a priority than than giving a second bye week or eliminating a second preseason game. Why?
Right.
Because the international series makes them a lot of money, whether it's in London, Mexico, Australia, Iceland, Greenland, whatever, you know, wherever they're going to play all these games, right? That makes the league and owners money. They don't care about preseason games. They only care about preseason games because it was an extra revenue opportunity. But if you give them the 17th game, and then if you give them the international series 4, 5, 6 games every year, they're going to make plenty of money to make up for the 4th preseason game that they cut out. So they looked at it as, okay, we'll make that trade-off. But I don't know if you're ever going to get, I don't know if you're going to get down to 2 preseason games in a normal year unless you're willing to give in on the 18th. And I don't think you're getting 2 bye weeks until you're willing to give in on the 18th.
Right. Not only that, it's just a team finishing 10-7 is just hurts the eyes. You know, it's just not aesthetically pleasing.
We were trying to figure this out, right? The other day.
Right.
Like wait a second. You're 11-6, I guess.
Right.
Or,
yeah.
So weird.
There's no 500 teams anymore. One team has
you're
9 home
9 and
games.
8. You know,
Right.
I mean, I guess what it does forever, right? Is it forever eliminates 8 and 8, and right? I mean, we no longer can have an 8 and 8 team.
Yeah.
Right?
You're either a winning team or a losing team. So I guess that's one thing.
Yeah.
But what do you think Landon Collins' role on this defense is? I know a lot of people have talked to him about him switching to linebacker. You know, he's not doing that. He said that's a lot of money to just have on the bench if they do address free safety early. And I mean, what do you think he does? You think they figure out a way to use him well?
So he says, right, he's not doing that.
Yeah, that's what he says.
We did a bad job today of not probably addressing that with Ron, but hopefully you guys understand. I mean, obviously
Twitter already figured it out.
Yeah. Right? I mean, when we're talking to Ron every day, if we miss a question, we can get back to him the next day or get, you know, here with something like that, we don't have, you know, we should have asked it. Okay. But we didn't. So I'll just say with that, as far as his role, I don't know if Landon is speaking for just Landon or if he's speaking for what Ron and Jack already told him.
Right.
I don't know that, okay, because they won't talk about this. So that being said, I'll assume that he's talking for them as well, and that, you know, you use him at strong and you use him, you know, very much in the box area, close to the line of scrimmage. That's always where he should be used. The problem, as everybody knows, is he was missing tackles left and right last year, right? So, I mean, you know, really, if he doesn't clean that up and if he's not healthy and if he can't cover running backs and receivers on like shallow crosses and little rub routes and all that stuff. If he can't do any of that stuff better than he was doing it, and I know he had the big interception in Arizona. He jumped a pass. I know he had the big sack and the forced fumble of Andy Dalton off the blind side. Jack started bringing that look in that game and kept it up even with other guys after that. If he can't do that stuff, he ain't going to play. I mean, I'm stuck with the contract, right? But he ain't going to play for me. Not if Cam Curl is healthy and not if Cam Curl is doing what Cam Curl showed us he could consistently do in week one. Even Jeremy Reeves at free is showed some promise, right? And don't forget, guys, DeShazer Everett's coming back. I mean, I don't expect Troy Apke to be on the roster. I expect them to draft another free safety. I would love the kid Grant out of Central Florida,
Richie Grant.
If they could get him. So basically what I'm saying is, look, they are stuck with Landon Collins. There's no denying that. How I would use him is exactly how I just aligned. If he doesn't want to play linebacker, if they don't want him to play linebacker, I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with that because I want my linebacker to be good in coverage. He's not. Right. I want my Will to be good in coverage. He's not. So I'm okay with that. But know that you're not going to play 70% of the snaps or 80% of the snaps unless you're kicking ass. And you're just not. Like, I don't care where you were drafted, where you came, how you hoodwinked the organization because you said nice things about the legendary Sean Taylor. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care. You're not playing for me if you're going to play like you did for the bulk part of last year. And now you're also coming off of a blown Achilles.
Yeah, right. Great. And now to wrap this up, Chris, I can't thank you enough for joining us. To wrap this up, what is your grade for the Washington football team's free agency thus far?
I would give them, and I'm going to be nice here, I think, and give them an A-. I was thinking B+, but I'll give them an A-. The only reason why I, as we talked about Fitzpatrick, I think William Jackson III is going to be a really good fit here. I was surprised, guys. Don't know about you. I was surprised they went that hard in terms of, okay, we weren't willing to pay Darby, and there's no doubt William Jackson III is a better player than Darby, and he makes the scheme more aggressive, and you can play more man, and you can be more on a hip. All of that. I was just surprised that we tried to keep Darby. That's what they kept telling us. That's what Ron said today. Tried to keep him. We weren't willing to match $10 million a year for him. So that tells us their offer was probably $8 to $9 million, somewhere in that range, right? But then we were willing to go $5+ million more per year for a guy on a defense that's going to cost you a ton of money, right? We're looking at, I wrote about this for SI last night. Jonathan Allen's in his 5th year. Is he going to get a contract? I mean, I don't know. Are we going to play franchise tag-a-rama next year with Jonathan Allen? Because you got to pay Montez Sweat. You got to pay,
Deron Payne's in his 4th year.
You got to pay Chase Young. You got to pay, so, I mean, again, I knocked them down slightly. I know how people on the outside are going to be like, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'll just say this. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I mean, look, he's not going to, I don't think he's going to win them a Super Bowl, but Ryan, I don't fear Ryan Fitzpatrick like a lot of people do. Maybe I'm missing something there.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and I think he's a better quarterback now. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean he's not going to make a mistake. He's going to make mistakes, and he's going to drive you crazy, right? And you're going to want to pull your hair out and your chest hair and everything, right? But he's going to be. He's not going to be a problem. I truly don't believe that, and I love the Curtis Samuel signing. Yeah. I mean, I think they even got Curtis Samuel a little to make up for how much they overspent, I think, or were over aggressive on Jackson. I think they got Curtis Samuel at a lower price than they thought they were going to have to pay. And Ron basically said, hey, we jumped in the wide receiver and the cornerback market because the prices were in check in the first day or so of free agency, or actually even before free agency really started.
Yeah, and that was a great job by them personally. And A- is right on par. B+, A-. I think you're right on par with that, Russell. I can't thank you enough for joining us. We have been fans of you. Listen to 106.7. Me and Holly used to work together. We would drive home every day at 2, listen to you and Chad Duke. So I really appreciate you coming on and joining us and being able to talk some football with us, Russell. This was a notch on our belt.
I appreciate the kind words, guys. Thanks for having me. And, if I could, just send out this to your listeners again, I mean, 1067, is still a part of my life, but, now because of the ownership shift and whatever, Pete Medhurst and I are doing 3 to 7, Monday through Friday. So, same kind of time slot. So we're doing our best to serve, obviously all sports fans, but we're talking a ton of Washington football. And Pete, I don't know if you guys know much about, I mean, he's super smart and he knows a lot.
We love Pete.
Yeah.
About everything. So, if I could, send out that reminder that don't forget about us on the AM dial, what they call now Odyssey, it used to be radio.com, Odyssey on the Odyssey app. So if you have a thing against AM, I understand it. Odyssey app. And also I have my own podcast, Locked On Washington Football Team podcast, which I know you guys talked a little bit to David Harrison.
Yep.
So I appreciate you guys having me and we'll return the favor here coming down the road. So
okay, thank you,
definitely.
Chris. I can't
Yeah,
thank you enough.
Thank you, Rooster.
You have a
appreciate
good one.
it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Have a good one.
take it easy.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with Chris Russell, the Rooster.
Man, love Rooster. Love Rooster.
That was a great one. And so that's going to wrap us up for this episode, everybody. Thank you to Brad Orme. Thank you to Todd. Thank you to Tay and Todd. Thank you to Colonel. Thank you to Mike, Orange Crush 92. Thank you, everyone, for your fan questions. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys on Tuesday for a brand new episode. Don't miss it. I'm Kyle.
I was recently trapped in the elevator, but I'm safe and sound now, guys. Thanks.
He's missing the lower half of his body, though. It's fun to find out.
It's a true story. It's a true story. He didn't get locked in the elevator. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Washington football. Hey! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.